Hello, and welcome to American Motherhood, where we explore how politics and society shape motherhood in America. My name is Bethany. I'm a liberal mom of two in Central Ohio, and I am on a mission to build a space reserved for liberal and conservative moms to meet in the middle as we all work toward a promising future for our families. Today, I'm excited to continue our local election series as we prepare for a very busy election season this fall. To recap, we currently have 10 candidates running for Westerville City Council and 7 candidates running for 3 open seats on the Westerville City School Board of Education. If you are a Westerville voter or just curious how everyday moms are navigating this political climate, make sure to subscribe to American Motherhood on your favorite podcast app. And if you like what you hear, leave a review to help other parents find us. Now, let's meet our first candidate for Westerville City School Board of Education, Tatjana Brown, a mom of 3 in Westerville schools and a longtime uptown business owner. Tatjana has called Westerville home for 18 years. She and her husband opened Meza Wine Shop in 2008, building not just a small business, but a local hub. In 2024 alone, Meza raised over $30,000 for schools and charitable organizations through community fundraisers. Tatjana is passionate about high-quality public education. If elected, she plans to prioritize smart budgeting, strong support for educators, and inclusive opportunities for every student. You'll find her campaign links in the show notes, and be sure to follow her journey on Facebook and Instagram as the race continues through this fall. Let's dive in. Well, Tatjana, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to learn more about you and why you're running for Westerville City Schools Board of Education. To start us off, can you tell us about yourself, your family, and your roots here in Westerville?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. So I am not originally from Westerville. I'm from Cleveland originally, and my husband is from Virginia. But we sort of ended up in Columbus for jobs, and because of Ohio State, I went to school there, and then ended up settling down in Westerville in 2007 and started our family here. So we've got 3 kids. My daughter Layla's 16. She's going into her junior year at North, and then we have my son Nico is going into 7th grade at Walnut Springs, and then we have a soon-to-be 2nd grader, Alec, at Mark Twain.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. So you have 3 kids, all in very different stages. So
Yes,
I
we're
feel
all over
like
the board.
I could ask you for a lot of advice
Yeah,
as
we're driving, we're
yeah.
doing, 2nd grade stuff. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us about Meza. How did you get started with that?
Yeah, so we moved here, like I said, in '07, and then kind of just started. I was kind of transitioning careers or out of a career and looking for jobs, and then in that period of time, we had talked about starting our business or starting some sort of business. And when we moved to Westerville, Uptown was definitely different than it is now. It was much quieter. There was just only a couple restaurants. It was just a different vibe, but it was, very cute and very quaint. And so we thought we just saw a lot of potential in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked about starting the business, and then we kind of jumped on it on an opportunity for a space that we saw, and kind of knowing that if I was going to go back into a different, looking for another job, that we probably wouldn't be able to do that. So we kind of just took the chance and gave it a go. And so that was almost 18 years ago
Wow, that's
now. So
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. So, actually, that's an interesting point. Can you talk us through the changes that you've seen in Uptown? So, Kyle and I moved back here in 2021, and so the current Uptown is pretty much what we know. So, I'm curious what a little bit of that history is in the past 20 years.
Yeah, so it is a historically dry area. This is where Prohibition started. So there's like a whole history aspect to it, which is interesting. And then I just think there's also been like a way bigger trend in recent years of people shopping local, supporting local. So it's definitely changed. Originally there was just a couple of antique shops, some restaurants, and by restaurants I mean like maybe Old Bag and one other, like a pizza place. So
Mm-hmm.
what it is now is wildly different. But I think it's just been this consistent trend of people really putting back into the community. And we have a really great Chamber of Commerce, and we have Uptown Inc., which is like a great entity that helps with all the events. And so it's definitely all come together really well.
That's awesome. And Fourth Fridays. We
Yeah.
love to get out there. It is so fun. It's so busy, and you can really, I think, see the spirit of Westerville in just those few hours, which is so awesome. And I know that you guys participate in that. And
Yes. Yeah, we love Fourth Friday, and it's just a community event and a great way for people to get out and just,
yeah,
meet shop owners. Like my daughter dances at Generations in Uptown, so they get to perform. So there's just so much going on that's
yeah,
awesome.
very cool. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about when you decided to run, and why now is the right time for you to take this on?
Yeah, I think, when running a business like Meza, like it's a brick and mortar business, it's like a very hands-on type of
Mm,
business. There's not a lot of ability to step away. And so for the longest time, I just feel like I was in that mode of building the business and the kids were younger and everything. And as things have gone on, I just reached a point where we got into a really good spot. We have consistent help at the store,
mm,
and I was just like at the point where I felt like I could do more. And I think being in the position I'm in Uptown and how long we've been involved in the community, it just felt like the right time and the right thing to do. I've just been feeling that nudge for a long time.
mhm,
And so, with the kids being the ages they're at right now and where I'm at with career, I just felt like it was the right
mhm.
time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about your strengths and what you could bring to the board. And then we'll talk about how your strengths support the priorities of the schools.
Okay. Something that just comes naturally, or something that I've just done over the years, is building community. By that, I just mean like kind of connecting people. I think when you're in a position where you just know a lot of people and you're just always meeting people, that kind of thing just kind of comes together. With the position I'm in, being able to connect parents and staff and administration and kids and other community members, I think that's vital to this role. And that's something that I am able to bring to the table.
Mm,
And, in terms of, obviously we're facing a lot of like budgeting challenges right now in public school, and running a business. Not that school is a business, but this entity is, has to run a certain way. And so I think that I'm really able to bring that piece to the table, because I also know that, as tight as budgets can be, things need to continue to operate. And so there has to be an ebb and flow there. And I think I'm able to bring a lot of good perspective there as well.
absolutely. Yep. It'll be an interesting few years.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. So you are running on building community and shaping future leaders. How can our schools continue to live by these promises? What more can we do to make sure that we live up to those?
I think about our investment in our public schools is vital. And I don't think it matters whether you have kids in public school or not. I
Mm,
think if we want a strong community and we want to see it continue to thrive, that's where our investment has to be. These kids are going to grow up to be the doctors that we go see. They're going to be, our city leaders, and we have to make that investment now, and support them. And so I feel like if I'm able to bring together a little bit of that and like help tie up those ends, and find ways to connect more to the business community, to just the community in general. And then I think communication is key. I think that a
mhm,
lot of times we can get a little frustrated, but a lot, with things going on. But I think a lot of that comes from just maybe not clear communication. And so the more that we can do to draw people in and communicate to them so that they understand what the challenges are
mhm,
for our schools, and then, where we need to make changes, I think that's really vital.
mhm. Are there any current policies or programs or recent decisions that you do not agree with, and or maybe contradicts, the promises that you would like to make?
I wouldn't say any policies specifically that contradict, but I do think that there's just always more opportunity for clearer communication to the community and to the public. And I think was as we, maybe in the past have had struggles with, like our past levy did not pass, which is really difficult.
Mhm,
People just didn't realize how important it was, or how
mhm,
what the devastating effects would be. And so I think the more that we can do to get ahead of that, in the future, I think that's super important.
Hmm. I'm just thinking about the meetings that we've been going to the past few
Yeah.
months, and the answers that we're asking for on a very in the grand scheme of things, it feels like a very small level because we're talking about two classrooms, right? Two or three,
Sure.
ideally three classrooms, given
Right.
our circumstances. Um, so, how do you prioritize both those more personal items that will impact maybe 20 students or 40 students as opposed to the entire district?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because obviously I was coming to the meetings to stay informed of what's going on as I run my campaign, but then also in support of our school and the current situation that's happening there. And I really do understand and believe that decisions need to be equitable across all the schools. We can't obviously ask for something, for one school and not expect the same thing for another. That doesn't make sense. But I also really feel like what we were doing is just consistently showing up for our school. Our school
Hmm.
is rated a level 5 top school, and it's been exceptional. And my kids have been there. We've been there almost, I don't know, 12, 13 years, and it's always been wonderful. And so that is the whole point. Like, that exercise is the whole point of what the board is there for. And so I really believe in that, we can continue to ask for public information and understanding of that issue and keep pushing to,
Hmm.
and the outcome may not happen exactly how we want it to, but I think if we continue to make sure our voice is heard and continue to push for what's right for our kids who are there, then that's all that matters. And hopefully there will be some common ground that we can reach.
I love that. So, speaking of, we do have such personalized experiences in our schools, and it's easy to forget how big Westerville really is. So, we
Hmm.
are the 11th largest school district in all of Ohio, with 23 schools and over 14,000 students. Can you talk about the socioeconomic and ethnic diversity in our community and how we can utilize that diversity to shape our future leaders?
Yeah, I think that's something that I value the most about our experience here in Westerville City Schools is the diversity and just how much it is celebrated. Um, Growing up in Cleveland, I went to a school district that was also a larger district. It kind of combined two different cities
Mm.
within the district, and the area that I grew up in, kind of kindergarten through sixth grade, was, I would say, pretty diverse in terms of religion, culture, and racially diverse. And I think it was just such a benefit to grow up that way. And it just allowed us all to build tolerance and empathy for each other and a greater understanding. And I think that is something that we really have to protect in Westerville City Schools. We have large populations of kids from different cultures
Mm.
and lots of non-English speaking kids and who are English learners. And so everybody deserves the same opportunity, and they all deserve to, feel protected and seen and like they're getting the same opportunity as everyone else.
Mhm.
And I think right now too, with lots of situations coming up across our country, people are maybe wanting to shy away from that. People are pulling back from what's shown, in books or what curriculum is taught. I think that's just such a disservice to all of our kids because they want to feel seen in their teachers and their leaders, and they want to feel understood. And for all the other kids, that's what builds their worldview and their
Mm.
empathy. And so we just have to protect that.
Yes, absolutely. All of our students deserve the same opportunities, but everybody also brings something to the classroom for the
Right.
other students, regardless of the circumstances. And I'm really appreciative of that for my daughters. So, this past year, we've seen the board navigate really difficult conversations within the community. Tell us how you approach conflict with other community members and why you feel confident in doing so on behalf of our students, parents, and teachers.
Yeah, conflict is going to arise, and people, my husband brought this point up when we first started talking about uh, me running. And,
Hmm.
he's like, no, there's nothing that people are more passionate about and can get more heated about than their children and their kids' educational experience. And so I do recognize that. And I think rightfully so, people are going to feel passionate. But I just am really looking at it as if I can look at every thing that comes up, every challenge that comes up and is brought to us through the lens of what is the best thing for the kids, that will be like how I guide myself through those difficult decisions.
Hmm.
And I just really think people at the end of the day, they just want you to listen and they want to feel like they were heard. And so if we can at least provide them that, and start there, I think there will be conflicts that arise, but I think that
Hmm.
it will ultimately be like that's just what they need to know that their issue was heard and that we're here to listen.
Right. So, the Board of Education is responsible for promoting financial stewardship, transparency, and accountability to ensure all financial activities support the district's mission and strategic goals. I still don't think DeWine has approved the version of the bill. I checked just a little bit ago, but
Yeah.
we do know that Westerville schools will be facing really difficult decisions because we are going to lose funding from the state. That's nearly a given. What experience and guidance will you pull from to navigate these decisions and uphold this critical responsibility?
Yeah, it's interesting because even if I think we've talked in the meetings recently that we've been in and heard from the board and from Nicole, who's our treasurer, that even if we do lose funding from the state, we're still, or even if we did get the funding from the state, we are still going to be in need of additional funding.
Hmm.
And that's just the reality that we're in. And so again, coming back to looking at it from a business perspective, if you don't have the funds, things will have to get cut and things still need to move forward. Like the school still needs to operate. So expenses need to continue to flow out. And so it's just a really difficult place that we're in. And if we don't want to see things cut, we're going to have to like come to that point in our community where we need to address the fact that if we don't want to see these things happen, there has to be that responsibility from the community as well to
Hmm.
uphold their piece of funding.
Hmm. Do you have any immediate recommendations for how we approach that conversation this fall? How do we get past that initial resistance, even to
Mhm.
have this conversation with community members who are not engaged and who don't may not even go to vote?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a kind of a two-sided challenge. There's going to be the challenge of just addressing parents who maybe just are not quite aware of where we are currently budget-wise. And so I think we're going to have to really share, and not in a fearful way, but just in an honest way of, hey, these things will get cut.
Hmm.
We will lose extracurricular activities. We will lose teachers might lose jobs. Like these things might happen if we do not pass another levy. And
Hmm.
then, with community members who are disengaged, I think just trying to get that information in front of them to look at like the trickle down effect. If your schools are not great, people are not moving to your area and they are not then supporting your businesses and they are not, the whole area will begin to suffer.
Hmm.
So we just really have to continue to like communicate. And I feel like that's so hard to do because there's so much communication constantly.
Hmm.
And I think messages get really lost. And so I think we have to collectively do a really great job of finding people in our community and like parents who feel really impassioned. I think we have a great group, for example, of parents who have shown that they are feeling very impassioned about their kids' experience
Hmm.
in elementary school. So, where can we find other parents who are equally as engaged and say, okay, now this is our mission and we need to get out there and make that message happen?
Right. Speaking of, you are running on a foundation of hope. What keeps you feeling hopeful and motivated in this climate?
It's so hard because everything feels pretty heavy at
Hmm.
times. And I think there's just so much out there and every day feels like there's something new to be worried about
Hmm.
and stressed about. But I think that has a little bit to do with what really pushed me to run right now, as opposed to like waiting or something, a couple years down the road, was that all of those things are so difficult, but if you can kind of pare down and look locally where you can make small change, that is way more effective than spinning out about all of these massive things that you can't control. So, whatever things we can do in our own backyard, in our own homes, in our own schools to make a difference and to, because there's so much to feel positive about. Our kids are doing amazing things, and we have teachers who are so wonderful and breathing so much into these kids every day, and there's just so much good going on right here in Westerville. So if we can focus on that, it makes it a little bit more easy to deal with. Then
I agree. That's where I've been trying to focus my energy as well. It's easy to feel helpless and to feel lost and not know where to start, even when you do feel so much passion about any given circumstance. And so my focus is just our community. What can we do
yes, yeah.
locally? We can make a difference. Okay, wonderful. So, what can you tell us about your campaign efforts so far, and just the race in general, and then how we can help you?
So currently there are, I believe, 7 people who've pulled petitions to run for school board. There
Okay.
are 3 seats open. Currently, we're kind of all in that phase of finishing collecting signatures to be able to be verified to be on the ballot. So the signatures need to be turned in by August 6th. For school board, because our district is so large, we need 300 plus signatures. So that's been quite a endeavor, just kind
Hmm.
of trying to get your hands wrapped around that. But and then I'm just kind of in the early phase of starting to get like yard signs printed and materials printed and things like that. I'm really trying to just lean into a little more of a grassroots approach because campaigns are expensive, and I would, I appreciate like donations and stuff that I've received and to put towards resources, but I'm also hoping that like I can do this in the most budget friendly way
Hmm.
and then maybe have some to donate afterwards. So, which I
Yeah.
would love to do. But so, yeah, so we're just kind of trying to get the word out there, trying to be present as much as I can on social media and kind of take advantage of that avenue. And then just kind of getting out and just chatting with new people, meeting new parents. I think that's been like the best part of this. I've met so many retired teachers who are like, just, it's so cool to see people whose kids are long, moved on, or maybe they don't even have grandchildren in the district, but they still feel so passionate about
Hmm.
supporting our schools. So I love that aspect as well.
Hmm. What do your kids think about it, about your race?
They are like, they've been very supportive. I think they were all kind of like, what's going on? But
Yeah.
I think they were all like, yeah, that's awesome. And I don't think they quite understood the scope of everything. And so
Yeah.
I mentioned to my son yesterday something about yard signs, and he's like, we have to have yard signs.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, it's like a whole thing. So they're actually pretty, I think, excited, interested. I'm hoping that it piques their interest in just in terms of community service.
Okay, a few more questions about the school board itself. I'm curious about the time commitment once you are on the board. So we know that there are generally 2 meetings a month, but what else goes on behind the scenes?
It sounds like, from what I'm gathering, like outside of the meetings, there's, definitely a lot of research, reading, work to be done kind of on our own time, and then some work sessions as well. So there is definitely like a bigger time commitment outside of just the Monday meetings.
Hmm.
And it is a 4-year term commitment.
Okay. Okay, great. And then do school board members receive compensation?
From what I understand, they only receive compensation for the time spent in the actual school board meeting.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so this is not a paid position.
Yeah.
It's not a career. It's
Right.
just, yeah.
Right. Wonderful. Well, how else, before I let you go, how else can we help you? What should we be looking for and watching for in the community to support you?
Thank you, first of all, for offering that. And if people can just continue to like share on social media, send my profile to a friend, or if you know parents who might not, I know when my kids were younger, I felt very overwhelmed by by everything, and so
Yes.
I probably blocked out a lot of things, so
Yes.
maybe just saying like, hey, by the way, this is coming up on the radar. And then I do have a volunteer kickoff event happening July 20th. It's at a friend's house in Uptown. We are going to have yard signs available for pickup
Mm.
there. So anything like that, if you're wanting to help with that, that's huge. And just reaching out and saying that you're willing to help would be awesome.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Tatjana. We
Thank
are
you.
excited to see you out and about, and hopefully we'll touch base again here before the election.
Thank you so much.